Now, ministers will set out plans to introduce a new football regulator in Parliament today. The new watchdog will oversee the top 5 tiers of the English men's game, with a review last year recommending the women's game should be given the opportunity to self-regulate. Our sports correspondent, Rob Harris, is in Westminster for us. Rob, what are the sort of ultimate powers that this regulator would have if the footballing world doesn't sort of govern itself sufficiently or do what the government would like it to do sufficiently? What powers would the regulator have to come in and force them?
Well, one of the things the government says is about trying to stop things like another breakaway European Super League, as we saw in 2021, but actually the Premier League already introduced powers itself that it believes would stave off such a threat from the elite clubs. So the regulator is quite focused on trying to protect the financial viability of clubs, particularly in the lower leagues, and about, in these strengthened measures the government sees it, giving fans more power over changes at their club, including over the badge, the location of the stadium, and indeed over ticket prices. But some of the key changes that have been made to this version of the bill compared to the previous Tory one, where they didn't get time to legislate before the election was called, it was around trade and foreign policy. Now, the government say they've reduced clauses. That means that any takeover that was approved in future would have to abide by and effectively align with UK trade and foreign policy. That would have put the English football authorities into conflict with UEFA, the European football governing body, which is against government interference and ultimately could have seen English clubs banned from European competitions. But that has been removed. Largely, though, in terms of how fans might see the regulator come into effect across the men's game, it's about potentially looking at the ownership of clubs and indeed the finances and whether or not they have the finances to sustain those clubs. And crucially, also, it's about potentially intervening in how much the Premier League gives to lower league clubs.
Rob, I mean, obviously the Premier League is the most successful league in the world at the moment. Is there an element where clubs are saying to this, European leagues around the rest of Europe will be licking their lips at the prospect of this? Well, or not? Is it not that intrusive?
Well, the Premier League has been lobbying heavily against it, and it talks about the regulator introducing banking-style, very rigid regulations. They're concerned about unintended consequences and damaging the competition. It is the most successful domestic competition in the world in football based on revenue. A lot of it does come from Sky's parent company in terms of broadcast rights. And it's about how the finances are distributed, which is central to the Premier League's concerns, because it does redistribute down to the EFL, around £500+ million a year. The EFL wants more of that cash. There's a current impasse over striking a new deal. The EFL also wants an end to so-called parachute payments. That's the cash given to clubs that are relegated to soften the blow of relegation. But the Premier League believes those payments are crucial to ensure that clubs have the sense they can invest when they gain promotion, knowing that it's not a complete cliff edge they fall off on the other side. But the regulator could potentially decide on the very future of parachute payments, as the EFL and Premier League currently are at an impasse over striking this deal.
Rob, great stuff as always. Thanks so much.